see entrepreneurship as getting basically punched in the face on a daily basis and getting it up the next morning and doing it all over again. You have to work your way. You have to like reverse engineer that dream thing you have. Because I had a dream board, and I would stick things on it.
Right.
But just having them there is not going to get them to you.
Yeah.
So you actually put the work in. It's not just about selling something me to you, right? It's about influence. When you hire people, when you work with suppliers, when you work with banks or investors, your ability to influence other people, that's called sales. That's still sales.
Yep.
Right. To me, that is a number. So if I had to give advice, it'd be...
Welcome to the Biz Life Podcast. I am Donnie Bedore, your host. We are here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So I have a guest here today. You're going to really love him. I love the accent. So that's really going to mesmerize you. But no, some great stuff, I think, coming our way. Looking forward to getting to know you more and, seeing what you have.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Welcome. Igor Vainshtein.
Vainshtein. Close.
All right. Igor, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So what I always like to do in the beginning is let everybody warm up to you and find out who you are and what you're all about, things like that. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So born in the former USSR, a little place called Moldova, which is a tiny, now separate country. So wedged in between Romania and Ukraine. So my mom's from Ukraine, so I spent my summers there. So obviously everyone knows where that is now.
Right.
Yeah. Moved to Australia in 91, so I was almost 11. Moved to Melbourne with my parents, came with $200, one $100 note, two $50 notes, two suitcases, maybe four, I remember, and no English. So this is my second language.
Wow.
Yeah, despite the accent. Right?
Okay.
And so I grew up in Australia between Melbourne and Sydney, lived all over Australia, really. Had an office in New Zealand, so I know we were talking off air about that.
Yeah.
So I've been to New Zealand about 50, 100 times.
Love it.
And moved to the US 3 years ago now, actually, almost to the month.
Nice.
Expanded my company at the time to Dallas. Well, I first started in Ohio. Then we actually found some family through Ancestry.com that were from Ukraine, moved out to Dallas in like mid to late 70s.
Oh, wow.
And we got in touch and became very close. And so we thought, well, Dallas is pretty central. Nice place. So we moved here, expanded my company here, expanded to Europe as well, actually. And then a year into my move to the US, sold the company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So big, I'm summarizing a lot of events.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, a couple things, right? I think a lot of people say, you're successful in business whenever you can start your own company. But I really think a lot of it has to do with you're successful whenever you can not only start the business, but you can sell it. Right.
Absolutely. There is, I think it's every entrepreneur's dream. It was my dream. And especially, I wanted to move to the US. In many ways, I wish we moved to the US first.
Sure.
With my parents, but obviously, fate took us to Australia.
Yeah.
And Australia's a beautiful place, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the whole concept of entrepreneurship, growth, business here in this country is amazing. I love this country.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing opportunities to this day. And I say this frequently, you'll hear a lot, is anyone who complains about this country, go live somewhere else for a few months.
True story.
Right? And then come back and then we can have an intelligent conversation. Go, if you really like socialism, hey, listen, North Korea is utopia. You should go try it out. And we'll talk after.
Yeah, really. And that's right. Mic drop. There you go. So you were saying so married, kids, right?
Married, yep. Married. My wife, Karina, she's from Riga, Latvia. So she came out to Australia about the same time as me, maybe a bit later. She was a few years younger.
Okay.
So she was 7.
Yeah.
And we met in Melbourne.
Okay.
We have 2 amazing little kiddos. Asher is almost 10. Isabel's almost 6.
Nice.
And
good ages.
Yeah, amazing age.
Yeah.
Born in Australia, but especially Isabel, it sounds like a proper Texan. It's hilarious.
Right. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, the podcast, as you know, is dedicated to the entrepreneur, right? Big, small, all over, right? Just looking for those that would, inspire, give tips, tricks, things like that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you got going on now.
So I am, the sort of textbook serial entrepreneur that does way too many things, and
I identify with that.
Right, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a personality trait. I have embraced it. It's caused me a lot of pain in the past. It also caused me success. So, it's a mixed bag, right?
Agreed.
So as I mentioned, I sold my main company was called 24/7 Golf.
Okay.
It was a e-commerce and manufacturing business. So golf simulators is what I used to sell.
Oh, okay.
But I also manufactured in China enclosures, fabric, screens, artificial grass, floors, etc. And I used to sell it together with a technology that tracks the ball.
Oh, nice.
And when I expanded, went crazy during COVID, right? Especially Melbourne, everything was locked down, longest lockdown in the world.
I was about to say, they were really locked down.
286 days, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And, but, a lot of people suffered. Obviously, a lot of businesses shut down. My business went crazy through the roof. So I'm very grateful for that.
Sure.
And also took the opportunity by the horns as such, and allowed it to grow, and beg, borrowed, and almost stole money to buy inventory when no one else had it in the world, and managed to grow a business through that period, and then expanded to North America.
Yeah.
First started with a 3PL warehouse in Ohio, then actually got my own warehouse here in Dallas.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a company called Golf Tech, which is the largest golf lesson teaching company in the world.
Okay.
Based out of Denver.
Yeah.
They acquired, amazing company. They've got over 250 locations, over 1,000 coaches. They acquired a company called SkyTrack, which is actually, so it's a launch monitor that tracks the ball. I used to be a reseller.
Okay.
And they then offered to acquire my company to kind of combine everything into one end-to-end solution.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what happened. And so I'm still working with them to grow it, and we grew it like 4 or 5x in the first year post-acquisition. Has been an amazing journey.
Wow. Okay.
So I've done that. I've got another startup, a golf app called Golf Track, which I actually started 8 years ago. Basically, what I was telling you, SkyTrack, that tracks the ball using a specialized device. Very, very accurate. I think number one in the world in terms of residential launch monitor.
Yeah.
I developed an app that uses your phone, the cameras on your phone.
Okay.
That kind of does a similar thing. It tracks the ball as you hit it. So you can, anyone with an iPhone can basically play virtual golf.
Oh, wow.
In the backyard at home or office or whatever.
Yeah.
Their studio.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I've got that. And then I've written 2 books. First one's already published here, Practical Manifestation. Wrote it 15 years ago. Did nothing with it. And then kind of once I got some runs on the board, I felt I was ready to share it with the world. I did that. And then in terms of entrepreneurship, by the way, I have a second book in this series coming in January called Agile Manifestation. I'm a tech guy by trade. So I'm a project manager. I was.
Yeah.
So this is, how project manager's guide. And then obviously there's an agile methodology to it as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm kind of most proud of is this board game called Entrepreneurpoly.
Entrepreneurpoly.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
And this is really, I felt it's almost like a work of art that I worked on for so many years. And again, I did the initial version 14 or 15 years ago, but didn't feel like it was something I could share. I went through an extreme roller coaster ride with my career. I've lost millions multiple times.
Wow.
And hit a lot of failures. I actually listened to one of your previous guests who was talking about, failures, just the beginning, right?
Yep.
And I've certainly gone through those. And about a year ago, I dusted it off and hired an amazing guy in actually Thailand who helped me rebuild the mechanics and the game mechanics and the ratios. And he's just a brilliant guy. And helped me bring it to life in its current form. So just released. And it does 2 things. First, it teaches us the true ride of the entrepreneur, not the rose-colored glasses version you often see in movies.
Yeah.
And they do portray some of the difficulties, but it really, it all goes well pretty quickly, so the happy ending of, the Hollywood ending and such.
Right.
But I see entrepreneurship as getting basically punched in the face on a daily basis and getting it up the next morning and doing it all over again.
That's a good way of putting it. That's for sure. It's so funny though. So many people look at, people like yourself or myself, right? That either, they're doing a few businesses or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, that guy's just like, he's so successful. Everything he touches turns into gold or whatever. Right. And it's like, man, they don't see on the other side of the curtain.
No, absolutely. And some of the numbers, and people hear about this, but I recently came across some statistics. I was doing some research about entrepreneurship worldwide, right? So at the moment there's about 600 million entrepreneurs worldwide, which is a big number if you think about it. 8% of the population, I think.
Yeah.
And the stats are 1 in 9 businesses only succeeds, right? So the 8 out of 9 failed. And I've started over 20 businesses, by the way. And most of them failed.
Wow.
So my ratio is about that 1 in 9.
Yeah.
And so if you do that, the maths, that's 5 billion businesses that have failed, right? Imagine the stories, the heartbreak, the lessons that are available through all those failures, right? And success, I attribute a lot of my success actually to the failures that I've suffered, right? That's, a great teacher, right? Knowing what, and so the thing that I've learned, in my entrepreneurial journey is to kind of speed up the process and minimize the risk of your failures, right? So fail fast, fail, and learn, from those failures and fail forward. So, make micro adjustments from failures so that you know which way is the right way.
Yeah. No, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Some of our greatest success has come from the very worst failures in our life, for sure. Yeah.
I think every story has that. I mean, one of my favorite books is Shoe Dog.
Okay.
The guy that started Nike. Amazing book. And I feel like he's one of the few entrepreneur authors, right, that wrote a biography that gets it real, because he talks about the difficulty, the challenges, and all of that in a very real way. I think a lot of stories they try to almost skip over. There's another entrepreneur I know actually in Australia. He either wrote a book or he was on a podcast. I can't remember, but he was just saying, we were almost broke. We didn't have money to pay payroll, and he's like, I just started calling people around, and I raised $2 million. I'm like, hold up, whoa.
Oh, wait a minute.
If I call around, no one's giving me a $2 million check.
No kidding.
Right. So it's like, how did that happen? Yeah. That's the story I actually want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know how you went from we don't have money to pay payroll to $2 million in your account. That is everything else doesn't matter. I want that story.
Okay.
And I feel like people skip over that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So let's do this. Let's not skip over that, right? Because I think, again, life is too short to make all the mistakes yourself. Learn from other people, right? And so let's have our audience learn a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
So what would you say your greatest success has been, and what failure led you to that?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I think there's it's one of the, I have so many of these, but I'm going to choose one that kind of comes to mind.
Yeah.
So I remember I was about 22 and I had this idea. And the idea was, because I was really early into the internet and I was very tech savvy. I grew up around computers, etc. Tech guy, like I said, super geek.
Yeah.
I just had laser eye surgery, which is why I don't have the big glasses.
Okay.
Yeah. Best $5,000 I ever spent.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. And this one day in a small room, I'm sure you can imagine which room, I had this idea. I think people will want to share videos of themselves on the internet. Like this is 2001, 2002. And I wrote a business plan, right? And I called it iexist.com, right? Because people want to show the world that they exist. That was my premise, And I went around all these venture capitalists back in Australia. And it's not the same as here, not like Silicon Valley. So the cap raising process in Australia is a bit of a waste of time most of the time. So I pitched this idea to all these people, and the main answer I got was, why would people want to post videos of themselves on the internet?
Oh, wow.
Literally, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, why would people want to do that? And what is it? A year later, YouTube announced 2 years after that, they sold for 1.6 billion. So that kind of answered that question. But the lesson it taught me, and it took me many years to realize that lesson and implement it into my business world and my career, is you need to see, Wayne Gretzky, right? Oh, one of the greatest phrases he has is, he was someone asking what made him successful was not being where the puck is, but being where the puck is going to be. Right. And to me, that's a really critical aspect of entrepreneurship. And I realized that I had a bit of a superpower that took me a long time to harness, which was to see where the puck's going to be, to see what the customers need before they even know it, they need it. I think Steve Jobs was another amazing example. Elon Musk, with Tesla and all of that.
Yep.
So to me, a great lesson was that if you see something, if you see a problem worth solving that no one has seen before. Figure out how to test if that is a real thing. I gave up, right? When people said to me I'm crazy, I gave up.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Man, that's, vision, right? It's seeing vision. It's the difference between a good sailor and someone that doesn't know anything, right? A good sailor is going to be able to figure out, okay, I see the winds, I see the ocean, where I need to go and where I need to not be. They're over here, but everybody else didn't read those things, right? So reading the market. And
then the other thing that because as a segue from that lesson is really another big lesson, which is how to fail fast and fail in the least risk possible way, right? So
let's talk about that.
Many times I went all in. I've done this whole all in thing in business many times, and I've lost most of those times, right? But and then a couple of wins, right? And especially more recently, like a really big win. But one thing I learned as I progressed, and what I do now is I'll throw 10, 20 grand at an idea or a business or a concept that I want to try out because I want to see if it will succeed. And the fastest thing is, will customers take their credit card out and pay for this, right? A good example, even this board game, right? It was an idea in my head. I don't know if people really wanted it. I did a prototype. I showed it to people. Everyone loved it, etc. Okay, it's cool. Saying that you like something or love something doesn't mean you're going to spend money on it.
Sure.
So the ultimate question, right? When people ask me, they come to me, for example, and they go, "Hey, what do you think about my idea?" I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm gonna like it, but like, why don't you talk to people that you actually want to pay you for that,
right? And
see if they will pay you and see how much they'll pay you. That's the real answer if you have a business or not, right? So, so my whole idea is, how do you create something for as little as possible, test it in the market? I have a friend here in Dallas, actually, is an extremely successful e-commerce business, and he would put up landing pages, whole e-commerce stores for like over a weekend. And then he would run $1,000 of ads for a week and see if people bought. And he would like refund them and say, "Look, I'm sorry, we don't have supply right now," whatever. Like, but and he picked the idea where he actually really got great traction on, and now is hugely successful business.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and so with that success, right? What failure would you link that to?
There is,
and how did you learn from it?
It's a million failures. Yeah. It's really not you can't trace it to one, right? It is all of those things. And going through it, you think that it's the worst day of your life. And
true story.
You think that you're never going to get out of it. And then one day you look back and you're like, I can barely remember it. And most of my failures, the emotion is still somewhat there where I can remember how painful it was during that time.
Yeah.
But if I actually had to truly experience it, like right now, I can't. I've forgotten what that feeling was. I just remember that it was really bad. Yep. So the lesson from that is that you will get over. Time will heal those wounds.
Right.
But I wouldn't change a single thing, because if it wasn't for all of those lessons, those painful experiences, I wouldn't be sitting here right now having a conversation about this to you.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be able to take all those lessons and kind of harness them into moving forward and getting better and better and better.
Right. Yeah. That's a true story, right? Like, get everybody's gotten their knee scraped at one time, right? Hurts like heck, right?
Yeah.
Salt or dirt in it. Yeah. And you got to clean it out. And you think, oh my God, this hurts really bad. But later in life, you look at it and you're like, I see the scar. I remember about what it felt like, but there's always a reminder there, but it doesn't hurt anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my whole concept with the game, but generally what I've kind of experienced and spoken to I love speaking entrepreneurs. I have this thing where I describe what truly I figured it out, what truly makes me happy in life. And one of those, besides obviously my family, which is very critical to that, but externally, I love having conversations with people with amazing stories.
Same.
Right? And a lot of them are entrepreneurial. That's why I have a podcast, right?
I have a podcast.
Yeah. And it's those stories that just fill my cup.
Yeah.
And there are so many, as you said it earlier, that's how you stand on the shoulders of giants. You don't have to make the same mistakes. You can actually learn from others.
Yep. True story.
And the idea was to create something that allows people to learn that, because that's what I would want. That's what I want my kids to do. I want them to be entrepreneurs, and I want them to get a sense of the failures that I've experienced and kind of interact with it, be part of it through gameplay, through immersiveness.
Yeah.
And then they'll make their own mistakes, I'm sure. Right?
Oh, yeah.
They'll learn from those.
True story.
But you combine all of them and you can accelerate the process of success, I think. I think that's really the main thing. Is I attribute one of my biggest failures in my early 20s is I attribute to being successful. I made my first $1 million in property.
Oh, wow.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yep.
And then I read one of his advisors, Real Estate Riches by Dolph DeRoos, who's actually a New Zealander.
Okay.
Right. So he was an advisor in that whole Robert Kiyosaki world.
Yeah.
And I played Cash Flow 101, which inspired, by the way, this as well. But I remember I had a high-paying tech job out of college. And I'm like, I love this whole property thing.
Yeah.
And I started buying. My parents helped me buy the first one. Then I, buy, renovate, revalue, pull the equity out, buy the next one, etc. So I had 14 properties from 20 to 22 worth about $3.5 million.
Yep.
Plenty of equity. I lost it all by 23, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was, as I became more successful, a millionaire by 22, I thought that I couldn't put a foot wrong.
Mm.
And that feeling of invincibility and being the smartest guy in the room, boy, that brought me down to earth.
Pride comes before the fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. All right. Well, let's shift gears. What is this game you have, right? And was there any particular thing that inspired you for it, or inspired you to?
The Cash Flow 101 was a great inspiration.
Yeah.
I played in my early 20s with groups. Socially there'd be cash flow clubs. There still are, I believe, around the world. Hmm. And I just felt it was a great way to learn both socially. So you're doing it with other people. And this is why actually the reason I didn't create it as an app or an online game, because I want you to sit at a table.
Yeah.
Right. Learn together, laugh together, cry together, maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
But have that. So, 70% of entrepreneurs report experiencing loneliness. Mm. Right. And I've experienced it myself. And it's interesting because it feels lonely at the top. You've heard that phrase, right?
Right.
But it feels even worse and more lonely at the bottom.
Yeah. Right. I was about to say, I know what it feels like at the bottom. I haven't reached the top yet. But it can be definitely lonely.
So I want it to be social. And then a lot of the cards in the game, they're my experiences. They come from me. So there's a card, for example, there's a couple of cards you can pick up, right? There's one called Encounters. That's my favorite. Okay. Which is the people you meet in life that have an impact on you, on your career, on your business, etc. So there's one in there, which is you meet someone who you think is going to be your mentor.
Okay.
And they steal $100,000 from you. Because they're a con man. Happened to me.
Wow.
Right. There's one there where you do meet a great mentor. They increase your profit by 10% in all your businesses. Yeah. Also happened to me. So
that's pretty cool.
So there's lessons in there. There's expenditure where you have to spend money. There's opportunities, pretty normal. And then there's another one called deal with it, which is, and that's really the crux of entrepreneurship. Stuff happens.
Yep.
You got to deal with it.
Yep.
Right. Good, bad. It could be good. Still got to deal with it. All of that. So, and there's a bit of luck and there's some charity, which I think are the important factors that happen. And someone asked me earlier today, they said, do you think, what do you think is more important, luck or hard work in successful entrepreneurship? And I used the golf phrase, and I still don't remember, I can't remember. It was one of the greatest golfers, and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say who said it. You can Google it. Yeah. But they said, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yep.
And I think that is very true for entrepreneurship.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I posted it was a while back, posted something on Facebook, what's more important, work or talent? Right. And it definitely sparked some on either side, right? So
yeah, well,
ready to boost your business's impact? Fully Promoted Fort Worth is your one-stop destination for branding needs, specializing in branded apparel and promotional products. They help attract, retain, and engage customers. From custom uniforms to eye-catching items, Fully Promoted Fort Worth has you covered. Contact them today to unlock your brand's potential. 817-803-4404. Fully Promoted, your success, their passion.
I guess if you don't have the talent, you can work at it and you can get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think Elon Musk was born a rocket engineer.
No.
Or an electric car specialist or robotics specialist or, social media specialist.
Yeah, no kidding.
What doesn't he do, But, I think his talent is ability to learn. And I think that is a great talent to pursue.
Yeah.
Excellence and almost be passionate about. You know, you don't need to be passionate about the business you're in. You need to be passionate about the skills you need to be successful.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. All right. Well, on the practical manifestation, there was another one that you said it's about to come out?
Yeah, in January, called Agile Manifestation.
All right. Give me the gist of, give me the elevator pitch.
All right. Well, I'll tell you how I came up with it. Right?
Yeah.
I was, do you remember the movie called The Secret?
No.
No? Okay. Came out, oh God knows, more than 15 years ago.
Okay.
Right? So it's all about law of attraction.
Okay.
So, you know, how to manifest things in your life. And
Gotcha. Yep.
there's one scene, I watched that movie. And look, I do actually like the movie. I think it's got great messages. But there's one scene in that movie that really pissed me off.
Okay.
Right. It's this guy sitting in an armchair with a plastic steering wheel. And the whole point was, you know, you just imagine your dream car, you know, and all of that, and it'll turn up in your driveway. Now, the car that he came up with in that scene was a Nissan 350Z.
Okay.
Right. Which is actually a car I had at the time. And I'm like, well, first of all, I mean, that's kind of not a very dream-worthy car. Like, you'd want Lamborghini or Ferrari. Or
right.
Like, come on, you know, let's be a little bit more ambitious here.
Right.
But the thing that pissed me off was sitting on your armchair with a plastic steering wheel is not going to put a car in your driveway. Right. Just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I kind of had this, in one day, I just had this like brain up. Like I was a project manager, and a lot of my career has been, you know, running projects, tech projects, IT, enterprise systems.
Yep.
And then later I became an Agile project manager, you know, and I'm certified in Agile and all that yada, yada stuff.
Okay. And
I wanted to create a plan. Okay, let's say you want your dream house, your dream car. The book's actually about getting your dream car.
Okay.
I've had Ferraris and all the Maserati and Porsches and yada, yada. And I actually had them for free.
Okay.
Right. And that kind of book describes how that process went. And I'll do a spoiler.
Yeah.
The way I got them for free is I ended up investing these cars into a car rental business. Way before Tourer.
Yeah.
Right. This is 15.
That's I have my car and it's actually being rented out right now.
There you go.
On Toro.
Okay. So but back then, so it was a 50-50 split, and I ended up having 8 cars.
Yeah.
And they were making me money until the global financial crisis hit, and then I lost my shirt again. So a few lessons there, but the point was that you have to work your way. You have to like reverse engineer that dream thing you have. Because I had a dream board, you know, and I would stick things on it.
Right.
But just having them there is not going to get them to you.
Yeah.
So you actually put the work in. Now, the question is, okay, what work should I put in?
Right.
And so this whole book is about like how a project manager, which is kind of the subtitle, right? How a project manager would actually run a project to manifest your dream car, right? And I have this conversation with people like, what's your dream car? Oh, Ferrari. Okay, which one? Like, what do you mean? Well, they have like 100 different models.
Yeah.
Which one?
Right.
Right. And then I go, oh, I want something newish. It's like, okay, that's not good enough. But also I'm like, okay, do you want to own it? Do you want to drive it? Do you want to race it? Do you want to have it for a day? Like, let me tell you, I've owned one. It is not a fun car to own.
Yeah.
Right. You spend ridiculous amounts of money on it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so like having gone through that experience, I'd rather rent it for a day and just give it and let it be someone else's problem.
Yeah.
So does that make it any less enjoyable when you drive it? You know, I've also raced, last year I went to Nürburgring in Germany, rented a race car, raced it around Germany, around Nürburgring. And before that, I went on an Audi tour. Audi gives you an Audi R8 convertible V10.
Nice.
Right. And we drove it aggressively from Munich to through the Alps to Italy and back over 4 days. Right. Gave the keys back. Great. Like it was so pleasurable just to give the keys back.
No kidding. Right?
Not my problem.
Yep.
From this point forward. So people have ideas. They have a perception of what they think is their dream thing.
Right.
But they don't explore what that means. And if you don't do that, how can you ever hope to hit that target when you don't know what your target is?
Has to be specific.
The more specific, the more chances you have. The more you will also, I also break it down to, if you reverse engineer it, what is the really important thing is, what is the next most important step you must do that takes you a step closer to what you want? That applies to business, it applies to relationships, health, anything you really pick.
Right.
It the same thing applies.
Yeah. Goal setting, really, for the most part, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then breaking it down to the actual very small steps. So this is like a more like a Gantt chart approach, a waterfall approach, and then the agile one is really how do you create an agile approach? Because most of us actually work in an agile way, And there's a methodology around it. And the premise I had was, look, there's all these companies, SpaceX or Tesla, right? They produce the most insane innovations we've seen, across the world, right?
Yep.
And Elon Musk doesn't put a poster on the wall of a rocket landing back on Earth and then goes and does light therapy, and mantras to make that happen.
Right.
There's a process.
Yeah.
And so the question I ask is, these companies follow this process, right? Why aren't we doing that in our personal life? And that was kind of the idea behind the book.
I love it.
Thank you.
Don't know about it, right? Maybe for the most part, maybe they don't know how to do it.
Maybe.
Boom.
Then you can read about
There
it.
you go. All right. So here it is. Where can they get this from?
Just on Amazon.
Amazon,
It's
right.
already bestseller in a couple of categories, so it should be easy to find.
Yeah. Practical Manifestation.
Thank you.
Igor Vainshtein.
Yeah, better.
Hey, I'm getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, let's shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. We have let's say you have a beginning entrepreneur, someone that's like, they've worked at corporate America forever.
Mm-hmm.
They've saved up enough money to maybe buy a franchise or start their own business because they say, hey, there's a problem here. I see I can solve it. I want to jump into it. Right. What would be some of in the beginning stages of starting your business, right? What would be some advice you would give them?
Okay, great question. So there is a skill set that I believe is critical to any business success, and it starts with one skill. I think if you have that skill, it can actually make up for a lot of lack of skill in other areas, because I believe you can hire people in those other areas that can supplement. And I have a great team, multiple teams, in fact, and I hire people that supplement my weaknesses or the things that I am not as good as and I want to outsource. So,
Sure.
But there's one skill that to me is, like, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you must have the skill. And if you don't have the skill, you must build the skill.
Got it.
Sales. Sales. Because sales is not just sales. It's not just about selling something me to you, right? It's about influence. When you hire people, when you work with suppliers, when you work with banks or investors, your ability to influence other people, that's called sales. That's still sales.
Yep.
Right. To me, that is a number. So if I had to give advice, it'd be fall in love with sales. Make it a sport, make it fun, figure out how to do it, figure out what is right for you. Like, I love sales.
When was your first sales job? When your first thing that you were like, man, I like this stuff?
Well, it's interesting because I never figured out that I was good at it until I was doing it. Okay. So when I was 16, 17, I started my first business, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I figured this thing called the internet, right? And I went around I was doing a work experience at high school in a equivalent of NASA. It wasn't as fancy in Australia. Yeah. And they had computers and the internet. So I'm like, wow, this is cool. Got back home, and I went around a couple of just businesses, chiropractor. I remember a chiropractor, maybe a real estate company, whatever. And I said, hey, do you have a website? And they said, what's a website? And so I built them websites for like $100, right? I was like 16, I think. And now that process, I sold them on the idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was selling.
Right.
The time when I truly realized that I was good at sales was when I was in my early 20s and I had this job at SAP when I was a consultant. So I was actually doing change management, transformation, corporate transformation. But I was somehow winning more work. And I couldn't figure out why. And looking back, it was this ability to sell, but I didn't sell I'd never thought of myself as a salesperson.
Right.
I thought of myself as someone who wanted to solve their problems. So I always say that if you want to be really good at sales, you better be really good at listening.
Good point.
Right. Best sales. And I even say closing a sale should be a question. What's your preferred method of payment? Right. Any sales training I do, I'm always saying that it is literally the quality of your questions will determine the level of your success. I've even done, one time I even went to sell life insurance for fun for 3 months because I just wanted to test myself.
Okay.
Right. Why not?
Who does that?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, hey, it's a sport. Let's put ourselves up, in what everyone considers to be the hardest thing to sell, which is life insurance. And
because they're probably not going to buy it from you twice.
Exactly. Good one. Yeah. Yeah. Where's the mic drop?
I know, right?
So I think there it is.
There it is. A little late.
So to me, it's really sales is number one thing. Yeah. And then the second probably skill that you truly need, again, to get good at is how to hire people. That's harder because it's more broad. Yeah. But there are certain ways. I think if you can start exploring that as a topic, I think that's really critical, because ultimately a business you can have the best idea, you can have great processes, but if you don't have the right team, your business cannot succeed. It's just golden rule. Like,
True story.
There's not, until we have robots completely running,
Right.
the business, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting there.
Yep.
But until that point, you need the right people.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. And I agree 100% with you on that. Let's go to sales, right? What are any particular books that stand out, someone that could pick up, read, things like that just really stick out to you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I've done every course I could get my hand on.
Yeah.
But the one that truly stands out is, and this is like from the 80s, so it might be hard to find, but if you can, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. It's
by Richard Bandler, who's the inventor of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is, so Tony Robbins licensed it from Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who invented it and started Tony Robbins' company and made huge success, right?
Yeah.
So he has a course. You can still find it on YouTube because it's so old, copyrights, whatever, expired, I think. And it's called Mastery of Influence, if memory serves me correctly.
Okay.
And I like that he used the word influence, not sales.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me, they're the same thing.
Right.
But from beyond that, I think Tony Robbins also has a program on sales. And because I feel like and I remember something from Tony Robbins' example specifically, because he said he wanted to do cold calls and everyone hated cold calls, and he kind of hated cold calls.
Yeah.
He's like, how can I make this fun? Reframing it, right? Which is an NLP term.
Yep.
And I remember the story. I don't remember which book or which course, but I remember the story where he got in his jacuzzi, wherever he was, and he started calling people from his jacuzzi. And he would tell them, he said, hey, I'm in my jacuzzi. I'm just calling it to talk. And, the whole thing. And people would just laugh, and it would just create this, it would just break down a barrier.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he was having a blast. And so he said all of a sudden, something that everyone hated, he turned it around.
Yeah. And
I think those kind of tools are the true essence that will help you become a great influencer.
That's pretty good. All right, babe. We're going to get a jacuzzi.
Yeah, you should.
So done.
Cool.
Go ahead and order it.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Order.
There you go. That's all I ordered.
Tomorrow.
Yep. Great. So I always like to, as we get closer to the end of the podcast, right, like to have, some crazy story or something that really sticks out but maybe no one knows about, right? Anything like that?
To be honest, I'm a pretty open book. I talk about my crazy stories all the time.
Yeah. Well, give me your craziest, because I don't know many of them at all.
Crazy story.
Yeah. I mean, you're from Australia. I mean, for the most part, you lived there a while, so you should have some crazy stories.
Right. Australia does have some pretty crazy stories.
Yeah.
There's you know what? I'll go. Let me go back further.
Yeah, go.
Okay. I'll tell you a story from when I was a kid.
Okay.
I told the story recently, so not many people know this story, but it's not even that crazy, but it just shows you what kind of crazy world I grew up in. Right. So, most schools have physical education, PE classes, right? So when I was in grade 4, we had PE classes. This is back in USSR.
Okay.
And to this day, I remember this. But for our class, here, what do you do? What do your kids? What did they do? They're a bit older now. What did they do in like grade 3 or 4? PE, like football?
Yeah, just the typical, right? Yeah, kickball or football, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was a PE class that I remember, right? So we would practice throwing anti-tank grenades. So we would learn that you have to roll onto the floor, right, and let the tank go over because they have flat bottoms. Right, so if you lie nice and flat with your grenade in hand, you wait until they pass you, right, and then you get up and throw it onto the back because the fuel tanks are at the back.
Holy crud!
Right now, I was like 7 back then. I still remember that. Like, I don't know. A, I don't know why I remember that. But B, I don't know why does a 7-year-old need to learn how to throw anti-tank grenades.
Practicing how to go underneath a tank and throwing a grenade in PE class. Holy crud. I think I would remember that too still. That's insane.
I mean, they talk about, Texas liking their guns and all that, right? This takes it to a whole new level.
No kidding.
Yeah, I remember that. So that was, shortly after that, we had a civil war that broke out.
Yeah.
And my school was actually quite close to the parliament building.
Oh, wow.
And so we could hear gunshots from the school. I mean, again, this is one of those things, like, it sounds insane when I say it out loud.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it, right? I just remember it happened, but I don't remember, what you felt. Like, I don't remember being scared or anything, right? It was just that's where you grow up. And so, I keep going back to this idea is, Australia is an amazing place. America is an amazing place. There's so many amazing places in this world where people have so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson in all that is, don't squander these opportunities. They're right in front of all of us.
Man,
they're always there.
Say that to the audience right there, man. Come on.
Yeah.
They need to hear this.
There is an opportunity in front of you right this minute.
Yeah.
You just have to go and just pluck it. It's always there. And I think that if you keep your eyes open, and it always takes hard work, right? It's never easy. You will never hear me say it was easy.
Yeah.
Right. But if you put the work in, there's so much opportunity.
Why aren't people? Yeah, no. There's another bass drop. It's true. Why aren't people as successful as they, in my opinion, as they should be, in such an amazing environment that, I mean, there's no reason not to be super successful, especially in America, right? Why aren't people so successful?
I think that, look, it's a really good question. And if I had to pick a couple of things, I'm sure there's a myriad of reasons, but if I had to pick a couple of things, I think there's been a shift recently, and I don't want to bash social media, but that's definitely part of it. I think there's a lot of excuses that are available to us. I think if I think back to how my parents grew up, my mom grew up in Ukraine, right? They had chickens in their backyard. They had an outhouse. They didn't have proper plumbing in the house. Right? This, and now she's traveling around the world, front of the bus, all of that, and it's in the same lifetime, right? And I think people have become complacent because it is too easy to be so, right? People in Africa, people in the Middle East, certain place in Asia, they don't have time to think about all these concepts that I think Western society allows us the comfort to think about, right? They're too busy. How are we going to put food on the table for my kids?
Oh, sure. And I get, in those countries, right? Because I've been to a lot. I've been to China and Nicaragua and in many different countries. And yeah, you're right. You go out there and you come back and it's like, man, this is really one of the greatest countries in the world.
Right.
And you have all these opportunities. And then you're like, man, are just people just, fine with mediocre?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's almost, I think it's just, it's almost, it sounds wrong if I say it, but I'm going to try. It's almost too easy to survive by being mediocre, right? If mediocre meant more existential threat to you and your family, I think people would rise up to it. I think overall society, I think we are today where we are because humanity was not prepared to risk their family's life, right, with mediocrity. Right? So they innovated, they improved, they hunted, they found new opportunities, they found new land. I think about Texas, and it's so bloody hot here. And I was just thinking,
98 degrees.
Right, it's October, it's 98 today. How did people do this 100, 200 years ago when when they had wagons and horses? How did they survive all this? Right? They were tough. And they saw opportunity to come here and pursue it. And I think it's that ability to move beyond discomfort, embrace the discomfort. Embrace the suck.
Yeah, embrace the suck.
Right? Yeah. I think that is one of the key factors. Now, for the people that are thinking about pursuing entrepreneurship, business, whatever, that to me, it leaves so much room for those that do want to put in the work, that do want to embrace the suck. Yeah. It's almost easier to succeed because so many people are opting out of that.
Yeah.
Right. So if you put in the work, I think you have almost less competition now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I see it completely. Right. I mean, being great in your craft really, to me, is not hard. Right. I mean, because again, most people are fine with mediocre customer service, right? They're fine with, just getting by, paycheck to paycheck, whatever. Man, all you got to do is be excellent at what you do. Like, you can give just a little bit and be head and shoulders over most people.
And there's so much free knowledge available right now, right? YouTube is full of I mean, my 9.5-year-old son is learning about make.com automation and voice clones and AI generated podcasts and all of, right? He's 9.5, like, you know, and there's just so much available. So if anyone is thinking about how do I do, like, what's the how? Okay, you say I should skill up, right? How do I do it? Right. Stop watching TikTok. Yeah. Go on YouTube and start watching long form videos.
How do I get good at sales?
Correct.
Watch the first 10 videos that pop up.
What's the highest view count? Go watch those.
Right.
And there's so many, like Alex Hormozi's got some great stuff. You know, a grain of salt with all of this stuff, but ultimately he's leading, and I appreciate that he does it. He's giving away so much free information because it drives more leads to him. Yeah. Right. But that information is valuable. It's true. He's not making this up. Yeah. Right. And I think there's just so much available. It's almost a shame to let it go to waste.
Yeah. Yep. True story. I mean, most of the stuff I've learned on my own. Again, Googling it and watching YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, I set up even my home YouTube, podcasting setup. Yeah. I just Googled what's a good home podcast setup, and it was like, buy this mirrorless Sony camera, buy this lens, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, Amazon, tick, 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 tick.
Right. Or you can call Taylor Perky and he'll do that too.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. All right. Well, man, it's been really good meeting you and being on the show. And likewise, man, I appreciate the time. Me. Yeah. And it's nice to, just connect with someone that's like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, no, we are crazy. We're just crazy in a fun way. There you go. And it's just fun finding other crazy people in this asylum that we create for ourselves.
Yeah. Should say, I'm not crazy alone.
Exactly. there you go. Yeah.
I am crazy, but just not alone.
Not alone. Yeah.
I love it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Man, it's been great. All right. So the book, Practical Manifestation, get that on Amazon. How do they get this amazing game?
So they can go to entrepreneurpoly.game.
Okay, entrepreneurpoly.game.
So entrepreneur, POLY, .game. They're in pre-sale. The first shipment sold out already. Nice. So we got another shipment. We got a massive shipment, several thousand coming in December. Want it to be available for people before Christmas, of course.
There you go.
So if people are happy to pre-order, they'll be the first in best dressed. Yeah. And but one more thing, actually, if I can just say to the audience,
absolutely.
I'm on a mission to donate 1,000 of these to people that either cannot afford it, or nonprofits, so schools, colleges, anyone who wants to learn about entrepreneurship. So please reach out to me on my socials or to you and pass it on. Yep. But if anyone knows someone, person or organization that could use from this, I'm on a mission to donate 1,000 of these in the next 6 months. I would love your help to find some great homes for this.
Perfect. All right. Y'all heard it. All right. So if you would just reach out to us, I'll post the links of all this down below. And that way, if shares it out, someone sees it, then go to the description box below and we'll have it all there for you.
I appreciate you.
Man. All right. Igor.
Thank
you, sir.
So great to be here.
All right. We will see y'all next time on the Biz Life. Make sure you like, subscribe, share out, all those things that help us blast us out and continue growing this channel. We really appreciate y'all.
You've got to look after the algorithms.
Yes, please. All right. Peace out.